Mick, my theory of uncertainty was based on a personal experience where my niece was born 3 months prematurely. And having worked in obsessive compulsive disorder for my whole career, I was watching my brother and sister-in-law who had to scrub every night to ensure they could keep my niece alive. And they'd be scrubbing for an hour in just the same way as my obsessive-compulsive patients were scrubbing. But for my obsessive-compulsive patients, they were scrubbing to prevent germs that were not harmful or dangerous germs. So that was when my theory of uncertainty was born. And since then, I have been researching and explaining how our responses to uncertainty lead to worry and anxiety based on our behaviours, our actions, what we do to try to get rid of that uncertainty.
How's it, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Exponential Africa. We will bring you the very best in thought leadership, technology, and innovation. And technology has given us this extraordinary opportunity. We can learn anything, we can connect with anyone, and access to knowledge is more available than any generation before us. But alongside those opportunities comes an important question. What is all this technology doing to our children? As AI and social media and even personalized, more engaging and more persuasive ways of entertaining us, we're seeing rising concerns around anxiety, depression, attention, sleep, self-esteem, and childhood development. Australia, as an example, has recently made global headlines by becoming the first country to introduce legislation preventing children under the age of 16 from having accounts on many social media platforms, a move designed to protect young people during a critical stage of development. Today, we are joined by clinical psychologist, Dr. Danielle Einstein, whose research and advocacy played an important role in shaping this global conversation. Danielle has spent years helping families understand anxiety, digital well-being, and psychological impact of our online world. Danielle, welcome to Exponential Africa.
Thanks for having me, Mick.
So great to have you coming in all the way from down under. Danielle, let's start off with just, what made you so passionate about children's mental health and social media?
So, Mick, I have been working as a clinical psychologist now for 30 years, and along the way, I have been researching exactly how people get taken advantage of if they don't like uncertainty, how they get exploited, and how their anxiety actually goes up. We've known forever that people that don't like uncertainty will try desperately to get out of it. And that's the theory that I developed in 2011. It explained what it is we can do when we're facing uncertainty that's healthy and what is it that's actually unhealthy. And so while I was doing this research, I was working with schools and teenagers in the early years of high school to see what was going on and mapping out what could teachers do to help students handle worry. And as I was mapping it out, I was also discovering exactly how much harm being instantly connected was actually doing, because it was stopping teenagers manage their own anxiety, and it was almost drawing parents in a little bit too much. And schools were using it, and we had all this excitement. So on the one hand, as you mentioned at the beginning, we've never been in a place where technology can enhance our lives to such a degree as we are right now. But unfortunately, what we've seen is this rise of persuasive design and human nature actually being exploited. And that's where we've got to find the right balance.
So interesting. And I think what a great conversation for all the parents out there that are listening today. When thinking about how do you raise successful, happy children, with this rise of anxiety and, emotional development in these digital environments affecting all of us. Tell me, why did Australia take such a bold step in this area?
Well, I do like to think that I had a pretty big, strong part in this, Mick. I was doing this research, and I was emailing researchers around the world and looking at the holes in their research. And this was before it was contentious, because I was researching this from 2013. So I
Wow.
had a track of where research was actually making some claims that weren't verified. And then I was working with schools and finding that that was happening in a lot of places. And my research program actually showed that we could change social media use, but not enough. And I'd been working with all these different companies, with Bell Shakespeare, with documentary makers, with educators, and discovering that nothing I did, with the teachers' help, with the students' help, was enough to counteract the what was going on in terms of mental health and that addictive pull that our phones and computers have if we're not aware that that's what's going on. So I was invited to give my expert opinion at every initiative I think there was in Australia, and there were about five. And along the way, I came across more misinformation that was out there saying that children were more likely to die if they were online less. So um, I put this out. I was on an age assurance expert roundtable, and I said, "Oh, I can't work it out. How is it? How did these children say that they were dead?" And someone else on that roundtable said to me, "Well, Dr. Einstein, you're right. It does sound a little bit fishy. I'll take it back to our statisticians and I'll get back to you." And when they got back to me a couple of weeks later, they said, "You're right. It was a secondary source. It was an error. We'll let the government know." So I guess my role was several. The first was explaining why it's not healthy to be 24/7 connected. Second was explaining how we do get to healthy connection and how we can use technology in a healthy way. And thirdly, taking away people's fears that if we were to bring in regulation, that it would cause problems, because that's really what everybody around the world has been worried about, that if we took away this tool, we'd be causing problems in mental health, which is actually not the case. The key to intentional use is just restricting and understanding when the use is going to benefit us, and also having those skills to still keep our face-to-face communication going.
So interesting, and I think that that's a nice segue into this understanding of intentional use, because a lot of people are saying banning social media outright, isn't that a bit too extreme? But you're not saying technology is bad. You're saying that it needs to be monitored and it needs to be done in a responsible way, like you would use anything in a responsible way. You're not just going to go light fires all around the town. You're going to use fire to keep you warm or for specific use cases that benefit us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're not necessarily going to put children in cars without licenses, without sort of training them how to drive, ensuring that they care whether they kill another person or not. There's a certain set of values we need before we give them the power of a car. So it's a little bit about recognizing what the impact is on their community and also on themselves, on their own brains. Like if you knew that you were putting a child in a car and therefore they would no longer be able to walk when they got out of the car, you may actually think again before you gave your child the keys to the car. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is we are seeing impacts on children's attention, on their ability to focus, to make decisions, to plan. And at the time that their brain is developing, we really don't want to be interfering with that.
Yeah, I think what you touch on there is this idea of this constant dopamine hit that you're getting, these dopamine reward loops that from spending a large amount of time on social media, ultimately creating that sleep disruption, self-esteem issues with the youth.
Okay, Mick, one of the other issues is what happens when a young person puts up their own video on social media. Because, of course, at the age where you're still developing friendships and you really care about how people are going to react to you at school during the school day, if a young person aged 13, 14 is putting up their videos or their photos, they're really drawn to look at the metrics and that size of their responses, the number of likes, all those metrics actually affect their self-esteem and make them self-preoccupied. So it's actually undermining their self-esteem, and we're seeing increases in depression and also less emotional intelligence rather than more emotional intelligence in those early years of high school.
So interesting. And so, from your research, what would you say is like an acceptable amount of time to spend, online or using technology?
I don't think we can define it according to time. I think we need to define it more according to, does a young person still have the discipline to put their phone away, to put their computer or tablet away? Can they still greet people if they come to their house? Can they have a conversation, look someone in the eyes? Can they listen to what another person's saying? Are they able to handle boredom by doing an analog activity, like, for example, playing with toy cars or building Lego or going outside and wanting to participate in exercise, in sports? So we can, and how are they going at night? Are they getting enough sleep? Do they look exhausted? Are they eating? All the really basics that we know are needed for living a healthy life. If any of those things are being undermined, we've got to start to question what's going on. And so there is, like, the one thing about time that you can do is you can actually just look at screen time. And if you see something like 4 hours or 3 hours, and if you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, there's like 4 hours a day and that's on social media, or there's 4 hours a day and it's all on gaming, then you just have to question what's going on in terms of those dopamine levels and the rewiring, and then you work out that balance. What's going on with their anxiety, with their depression, with their other relationships? Are all the other relationships still going well? And are they still contributing the way you need them to in your family?
Okay, great. So you're saying it's actually the types of content is very important, is one part of it, and then the second part of it is it affecting your behavior in a negative way? Is it affecting their behavior with other human beings in a negative way in different social
Yeah.
settings? Very interesting. My daughter is sometimes she can do that. And I mean, we're very, very passionate about AI and all of these different exponential technologies that are growing at this incredible rate that are benefiting humanity ultimately. How do you think AI is making these platforms even more persuasive?
Well, AI, of course, allows the platforms to be able to predict the person's reaction, and personalize what's being delivered, and it can optimize, and really target the consumer or whoever's online. I think AI has so much potential, and when used in a way that's consistent with mental health, we'll be fine. We just need to make sure that there are guardrails put in place.
And just in terms of, like, the parent, being a parent myself, what do you think, like, what role can I play as a parent, and my wife, and just parents out there, in order to sort of create the right modeling behavior or the right conversations with our children?
Well, you use the right word, Mick, when you say modeling, because kids copy what we do. They don't listen to what we say. So the most important thing is for all of us to recognize that our devices have what I call an addictive pull. That is, you see your phone and you think, what might be there? There might be something really good waiting for me. So it's really hard to resist the urge to check it. And for adults and teenagers, there also might be a thought of, I wonder if that problem that I was dealing with today has now been resolved. I wonder if my boss liked the email that I sent. Let me just check, because that would be so nice for the rest of the evening if I've got a pleasant reply. And so an adult or any person will just pick up their phone to solve their worry, or to have something nice happen. And before a minute's passed, and let's say that email actually hasn't arrived, then we are all getting consumed and carried away with other things that are sitting on our phone or our tablet or our computer. So it's a little bit about recognizing that the actual phone itself, or the tablet or the computer that has something that's really important to you, will pull you in if you see it. But if you put it out of sight, then you can actually practice getting better at not going to it all the time to make yourself feel good. So I call that building up device discipline, where we know where it is and we actually put it hopefully just in one place in our house. So I think what's interesting is we've gone to portability, and portability seems like this brilliant thing. We can now wear glasses, right, that will solve every question and bring in help. But actually, it's that very portability that interferes with our ability to stay in the moment and stay present for our family, for our kids, to stay and listen. Actually, there's a new term called technoference, which is when children feel that either their teacher or their parent just is not going to listen to them because the parent or teacher is consumed with what's coming in on the computer or the phone. So it's about recognizing how that's interfering with our relationships and doing the one thing we can, which is actually putting it in a particular place. Now, that means that instead of us being drawn to it all the time, we make the active choice to go there, to check our emails, to check our messages. So it's a little bit of a reset in our view. It's recognize how powerful this technology is and take back control as a human in terms of choosing when we're going to use it and where we're going to use it.
I love that. I love that. It's like almost you need to set your boundaries, where it's you're going to be doing it. Like if, you need to say, I'm only going to eat that chocolate once a week or whatever that boundary is for you. You need to set those
That's right.
boundaries and then try have the discipline to stick
That's
to them.
right.
Have that device discipline.
I'll just say one more problem that we're seeing is that it can become the case that if you've got this really bad habit where you're always on your phone in your bedroom, or a child's always on their computer in their bedroom, that a child can actually find it hard not to be on their computer the moment that they wake up. So they're very quickly picking their computer up, going onto YouTube in the morning, and then trying to distract themselves from their worry or make themselves feel better. And all of a sudden, time has passed and they're not getting up and eating breakfast, getting ready to go to school. These are the problems that if you recognize that the room is now being associated with, that's where I watch YouTube and that's where I'm on my computer, and that the room starts to have that addictive pull, it adds another layer to understanding why we have to be so careful with where we place our devices and where we use them on a day-to-day basis.
Wow, it's really, really interesting because we all do this so often, so naturally without even thinking. What role do you think the schools should play?
Well, schools in Australia are now starting to recognise what I'm talking about in terms of this addictive pull. And so they're starting to say, hang on, maybe we need some policies around. For instance, there might be a policy around when a teacher can email students, instead of the teacher emailing results for a maths test, say, during an English class while the children are sitting in their English class, they might have to wait till the children are in their own class or the children are between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that there's not always the prospect of important information coming in every second that will interrupt the child focusing on another lesson or draw a child to be checking all the time. So it's about everybody recognizing what's going on and taking responsible for their little section of how they might be interfering with really healthy development in students.
And I mean, like in terms of the technology companies, they are the ones feeding us these algorithms that are really engaging us. How should they
That's
think more
right.
ethically? How do they design better products? I know Apple just recently released child safety controls, so every kid should have an iPhone. Was they're saying. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the technology companies?
Well, I think there's different levels of the companies, whether it be Apple or a social media platform. I think we are starting to see in the court cases that the social media platforms actually have the information about how they're harming mental health. And so I hope, like in Australia, set an example to say, we actually don't believe that social media is appropriate for under 16s and that children shouldn't have accounts on social media. So they can't upload their video or photo until they're 16. And other countries around the world are also starting to look at that. And whenever I've spoken in a country and explained the faulty research, you see that those countries and those politicians start to understand what's going on and hopefully seem to be emboldened to make changes that are going to protect mental health. So I hope that we're going to see a shift where platforms and developers feel a sense of responsibility towards the community. And it's not that the platforms are consuming the people, but instead, just like we saw in the corporate world about 20 years ago, platforms and corporations wanted to give back. And all of a sudden, employers were saying, we want to give back to the community. We don't want to be undermining real life community. We don't want to be undermining mental health. We want people who are happy. We don't want to be leading to more depression or more anxiety. And so we're going to start to brag and show just how carefully we can design our platforms so that they are of use to people rather than trying to take over. And if we think about time as being a person's most precious commodity, that's really what we're talking about. We want to help you and take as little time as possible rather than as much time as possible from your life.
Such great insights, and I think that's everyone should really take that to heart. When thinking about your child's development, and if we look at AI and the future of childhood, like going back to the AI discussion around it's becoming part of everyday life. Everyone's using it as an assistant. You can have it as your tutor. How do we embrace the benefits of this incredible technology without compromising the child's well-being?
When a child is learning, they learn best when they have to grapple with material. We do see that they actually learn best when they're doing handwriting, which is slower. It is the grappling, it's the hard work of the learning that builds your brain capacity. So we've got to be really careful about when we think about how AI is actually being used.
Yeah, I think that there are some examples of AI tutors like the Alpha School, what they're doing, where it's you get to learn with AI based on your own learning journey. So if you're weak in one area, it will feed you more of that learning. So it will help you get over that. And with just within 2 hours, these students are learning more than students would learn in a full day of the old curriculum, and are achieving incredible results. And then the afternoon is about people coming together and doing group learning and problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity, and really breaking your own glass ceilings as an individual based on your capabilities. So I think that's a really good use case of using AI in a really good way to help accelerate learning and development.
And Mick, what I'd add to that is that particular school has really good oversight of what they're delivering, because they've got this in the morning, but in the afternoon they've ensured that the program brings face-to-face activities together and that it's not one at the expense of the other. And I think that's what I would say to your community here. If you're going to embrace the positives in the way that school has, it has to be done within really careful oversight, that it's the whole package and the whole child and the whole community that's being looked after. Otherwise, it leads us down the wrong track. But if it's done carefully and thoughtfully, then fantastic.
And I mean, what does healthy technology look like for the next generation? When this, 5, 10 years in the future, where do you see this going?
Well, I think it will. I hope that we haven't lost our sense of being human and that we still have the social qualities needed, because that's one of the first thing that goes in childhood, is when a person is only communicating online, there's actually going to be more loneliness and less social skills that are needed. Social anxiety and just handling uncertainty, that's my area of research and expertise, is something that we only master through experience. So I hope that what will happen as a result of this reset is that we recognize that balance and that as humans we say, okay, this is powerful, amazing technology which we're going to use in this particular way, but we're not going to use it in absolutely every way. Just because it sounds like a good idea doesn't mean it is a good idea. So it's just understanding the basics of human nature and making sure that we're not exploiting human nature, we're supporting human nature.
Love it, love it, love it. And to end off, I'm just going to do a quick fire round. I'm going to just give you a couple of lightning questions, and you can just tell me what's on the top of your mind in a very short answers. So, tell me, what's the biggest myth about social media at the moment?
That it supports mental health.
What's the biggest myth about anxiety?
That being connected to your child all the time is good for their anxiety or your anxiety.
And one habit every family should adopt?
Putting your phone or device out of eyesight and in a particular place in the home.
And tell me one technology that you're really optimistic about.
AI. I think it's going to help us be extremely productive.
Awesome. And one thing every teenager needs more of?
Face-to-face times.
Last one, are you hopeful or worried about the future?
Always hopeful, always optimistic. I think when people have the right information in front of them, they can make the right decisions. We did it in Australia, and hopefully the rest of the world, when they have the right information, will come to their senses.
We can't wait to see you at the Singularity South Africa Summit in October. And what today's conversation reminds us is that the future isn't simply about building more powerful technology. It's about building healthier humans. To everyone watching, thank you so much. The future of humanity will be shaped not only by technology we build, but by the children we raise. Let's keep building Exponential Africa. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Cheers, Danielle.
Thank you, Mick.